What if I tell you that one wrong move in the King's Gambit can end the game in just a few moves? Today, I'm going to show you some absolutely killer traps in the King's Gambit. Traps that crush unprepared opponents. So stay till the end because these ideas can win you games instantly. Let's jump straight in. Let's start with the moves. E4, E5, F4, the King's Gambit. Black declines the gambit and brings out the bishop, stopping white from castling. White develops the knight, calmly dealing with the queen check and putting pressure on the e5 pawn. Black defends it and now comes c3, preparing the classic d4 break. D4 is a very common theme in the king's gambit, and black knows this. So he tries something sneaky, queen e7, indirectly targeting the pawn. White doesn't hesitate. D4 as expected. Takes, takes, and after the dust settles, black grabs an extra pawn with check. Now here's the critical moment. White could block with the queen. He could block with the bishop. But instead, he moves the king, giving up the right to castle. This looks like a terrible decision, but in reality, White is setting a very clever trap. Black retreats the attack bishop, and suddenly, Black is in serious trouble. Can you find the winning continuation for White here? Pause the video and try. First, bishop check. And no matter how Black blocks with the knight, bishop, or pawn, rook to e1 comes crashing in. The king hides behind the queen, and just like in a tragic love story, the queen must sacrifice herself to save the king. After that, White is completely winning. Going back, even if, after this check, he moves the king away, you'll still play rook e1. And after queen moves, the rook jumps up the board, punches the king right in the face, and that's a brutal checkmate. Now, let's look at another dangerous trap in the king's gambit, this time from the Fallbeer counter gambit, starting with d5. White accepts the pawn, and black immediately offers another one, the Nimzowitsch counter gambit. White wisely doesn't grab it. Instead, he plays queen e2, putting direct pressure on the king. Black captures on d4 and invites white to take back with the queen. White accepts, and it comes with check. Black could block this in several ways, but instead, he places the bishop in between, tempting the queen deeper into enemy territory. Now pause for a second. What would you play here as white? If you're thinking about grabbing the g7 pawn, you're not alone. In fact, white, a 2300 rated player, did exactly that. But this move falls into a very nasty trap. It starts with bishop f6. Suddenly, the queen has only one safe square, queen g3. And now comes the final blow, bishop h4. Once again, the queen is forced to give herself up to protect the king. And just like that, white loses his queen and the game is essentially over. Now let's move on to the third trap, arising from the king's gambit accepted. White continues with knight f3. Black defends the pawn, and white can't take it because the queen is protecting it. So instead, white calmly develops the bishop. Black adds yet another defender and builds a very solid-looking pawn chain on the king side. White wants to break this structure, so he attacks the g-pawn. But black says, "Not today," and pushes the pawn forward. Now, if white captures, black simply recaptures, fixing his double pawns and keeping a strong pawn structure. But white is thinking on a completely different level. Guys, can you imagine what move white plays here? Take a wild guess. He goes for a stunning knight sacrifice, knight e5. Suddenly, black is under huge pressure. There are forks on the queen and rook, dangerous bishop checks, and threats everywhere. Black has no choice. He takes the knight. And now, the real idea is revealed. The attack begins. First, Queen h5 check. The king has only one square, king e7. Then queen f7 check. Again, only one move. Another check. The king is forced back. And finally, queen e5 checkmate. A beautiful checkmate. The king is finished, surrounded by his own army. And by the way, if you enjoyed this trap, you know what to do. Smash the like button and show your support. Alright, let's move on to the next trap. Once again, we reach the king's gambit accepted. White plays knight f3. Black responds with g4. But this time, white immediately challenges the pawn with h4. Black pushes the pawn forward, attacking the knight. The knight jumps into the center, and now the bishop joins in, attacking it again. This position comes from the Kizeritzki gambit. Here, black is deliberately sacrificing the g-pawn, and white accepts it. Then comes d5, a very aggressive move, striking the center and opening up the bishop's diagonal. White gets greedy. He keeps grabbing material, and that's the big mistake. The e-file is now wide open, and black strikes immediately with queen e7 check. White can't block with the queen or the bishop because the knight would be hanging. So he's forced to move the king. And now the attack explodes. Bishop c5, another check. The only safe square is king f3. Black keeps hunting the king. Bishop g4 check. White captures the bishop, but just look at this king. He's dancing all over the board. Black is absolutely loving this. The knight joins the attack. King f6 check. The king is pushed back to f3. And finally, black finishes in style. Queen e4. Checkmate. Game over. Alright, next trap once again comes from the Fallbeer counter gambit. But this time, white plays it very differently. White doesn't take any pawns. Instead, he develops the knight, covering the h4 square. Pumpkin takes, knight takes, and now black offers a knight exchange. White doesn't rush. He calmly develops his bishop, pinning the knight to the king. Now look at this position. That knight has two attackers, but only one defender. Black should react, but he completely ignores the threat and simply develops his other knight. White is thrilled. He immediately goes after the knight. Pawn takes, bishop takes, and suddenly white is forking the king and the rook. Black blocks with the bishop, but white still grabs the rook. At first glance, this looks completely winning for white. But here's the twist. Black has a stunning move, bishop g4, and believe it or not, the queen is trapped. There is absolutely no way to save her. In fact, the engine already shows almost a 3-point advantage for black here. From this position, black wins comfortably, and white realizes far too late that he walked straight into a deadly trap. The next trap in the king's gambit appears after black accepts the pawn sacrifice. After bishop c4, black goes for a very natural move, queen h4 check. The knight isn't developed yet, so the check makes perfect sense. The king steps aside and black continues aggressively with bishop c5, clearly trying to finish the game as quickly as possible. But white has other ideas. First comes d4, forcing the bishop to retreat. Then knight f3, attacking the queen and forcing it to move again. Now black says, wait a second, I'm not backing off. He plays queen g4, defending the pawn and keeping pressure on the king side. And this is exactly what white was hoping for. Can you find the deadly move for white here? Pause the video and think. Yes, bishop f7 check. At first glance, this move looks completely insane. Why would white just give up a bishop? But if black takes it, which is exactly what happened in the game, white has the brilliant knight e5 check. It's a fork on the king and queen. And on top of that, there's a discovered attack on the queen. White can capture her in multiple ways. Now let's rewind for a moment. Even if black senses danger and tries something like king f8, white calmly plays h3, attacking the queen. Surprisingly, she has only one safe square. Now the second knight joins the game. And if black gets greedy and takes the bishop anyway, white has the lethal move knight e2. The queen is forced to g6, the only square. Then comes knight e5 once again. And this time, there is absolutely no escape. The queen is lost. According to the engine, white has more than a 7-point advantage here. From this position, the game is completely winning. So that's it for today. Some of the most dangerous and deadly traps in the King's Gambit. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, make sure you smash the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Comment below which trap shocked you the most. I read every single comment. Thanks for watching. Keep attacking, keep improving, and I'll see you in the next one.